excited. All right.
I'm excited.
Honestly, I think that like you have enough creativity to go around for everyone. You are like probably the most creative and artistic in every sense of the word person that I
Um,
know. And so I'm really excited to pick your brain about your creative process as a seven.
Gonna be
And
fun.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. So before we begin, can you just tell our audience like your name and what arts, because you have a lot, what arts do you do and how long, I guess,
Oh, buddy.
you've done them?
So, what arts do I do? I do just about everything. I love anything and everything. You want to teach me something new, I'll learn it. You want me to pick up and do something new with my hands, I'll do that. I've learned everything from painting walls to like making sculptures to any kind of material. I like writing, I like poetry, spoken word, like anything I can create, I just dive into. Once I learn the process, it's more like figuring out a new tool to use and just playing with
Yeah.
it. That's what I like. It just anything and everything creative.
You're like a female Da Vinci, a Renaissance
I
girl.
don't know about a Da Vinci. I'm not that good. It's like jack of all trades, master of none.
No, but you're pretty masterful. You're like, what? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So you got how long would you say was this been like since birth? Like you were just like dabbling in painting and writing.
Like elementary school,
Hmm.
I just realized I really liked it when I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was an opportunity in elementary school to take one of our art pieces and turn it into like a magnet, into like a postcard, into all sorts of different little things for our family members. And I remember making that, and it was on this huge like magnet, or at least huge in my eyes. It was probably actually this big at the time, but I thought it was huge. It was just my artwork like stuck on a fridge, and I was like, man, that is so cool. I was like, but then after a long time of looking at it, after a little while, and I was like, I want to get better at this. And I
Oh,
saw how other people would like draw and do things, and I was like, I want to be able to do that. So it's just like a little bit of what's the word? Not jealousy, but it's just that feeling of I want to do that too.
yeah,
A
yeah.
little bit of FOMO, but a little bit of like
That was
just
inspiring.
intrigue. It was
Yeah,
inspiring, yeah. And
yeah,
there's a lot of cool things I saw people making, and I just was like, I want to do that.
yeah.
So,
That's so cool. That's so cool. I'm just imagining like little 10-year-old Jess with the light bulb coming up.
yeah, with her self-cut bangs.
All right.
No.
So my first question for you on this adventure into your mind is, can you describe to us what your creative process looks like? Like when you're coming up with an idea on something to paint or a poem to write or a song or what have you, can you walk us through, give us a little tour of what your creative process looks like?
So, creative process. I had to think about that for all of 5 minutes because my creative process is pretty standard no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It would usually start off with maybe like a daydream, something that inspired me. Like, I can't tell you the number of times, just even playfully living in this house, I would see something like a peanut that just looked a little bit like a human. And then all of a sudden, I take that peanut, I turn it into a character, and I write this little storyboard for people in my house just to simply enjoy. And I make this whole story. Like, there was a time where I felt so bad after I first moved into the house that I used up one of their pens because I left the pen cap off and it completely dried out.
Oh
And
no.
so then I made this whole story about how I murdered the pen and all the pens gathered around to kill me in the dead of night and like left their scheme. And like, and this was at the time where they hadn't learned that I sleep in really badly sometimes. And so it was 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. They haven't heard from me, and they just see this cartoon spread across the table of like how the pens murdered Jess. And they're just like, wait a second, is this real?
Did
But
she
anyway.
die? Like, is this her suicide note? What is going on?
So creative process is usually something that I see that like will inspire me, and it kicks off maybe a story or a thought or something, capture it on paper,
Yeah.
and generally to make other people laugh or bring joy or happiness to other people. Just that kind of a feeling in art is one thing.
Yeah.
Another way for writing is I see someone or something that inspires me, and it inspires a new character in my head.
Mhm.
And I want to turn them into a little bit of a reality. So a lot of my creations start off as either daydreams, inspirations, and then on a worship level, just things or aspects of God that just really inspire me, and I want to capture that on paper. And
Yeah.
so, whether in word or picture,
Mm.
so a lot of it just
That's
comes
cool.
from curiosity behind of a story behind something that exists
Yeah.
that I just have to make up on the spur of a moment, and ends up becoming this whole story in my brain. And so, yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. I can definitely relate to the thinking in stories, like stories. You can see stories everywhere, and but that is definitely the fascinating. Just to the level that you can do it, like creating this narrative that the Pens killed Jess because you killed one of their own. That's, and the swiftness with which you do it is what's so impressive. Like it's already there, and it's
Yes,
just,
yes. It's actually kind of scary for some people. You know Tahila, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I was in her room and she has this 4-post bed, and I came up with this. She's like, "Oh, you can make a story out of anything." It was her dad's challenge. I can't remember how it started, but I said, "Yes, these 2 posts are warring nations, and there's little people that live in the top." And I was like coming up with these crazy stories. Her dad reaches up, grabs the top of the peg, and just like twists it a little bit, and I was like, "No!" I like had an emotional attachment to
You're
these
so invested. You
creatures.
destroyed their world. That was the Southern tribe.
Done. And to this day, apparently, he still goes into their room and kind of like evens the playing field by doing something to the other side. He like twists them, flips them
I
up.
can see him doing that. That's so funny.
So
Oh
it's
my
just
goodness.
like, yeah, but it's something I've had ever since I was a kid. When I was, I don't even know how old, maybe like 8, 9, 10 years old, I spent a lot of time just gathering all the printer paper I could find, much to my parents' chagrin probably, and cutting it into little pieces and stitching it together and trying to make a book or a sketchbook or something. And then I would write stories into these little books. And then I realized actual sketchbooks and journals exist, and I was gifted with them. And I started filling those up with stories that were just in my head and
Yeah.
on my brain. I don't know, it was just an overactive imagination, I guess, that really kicked off the whole creative process. And when it comes to drawing and creating things, it just, again, starts off as an idea. And then if we want to talk about the technical pieces of it, I like sketching it out and then throwing some ink on it, throwing some color over the ink, and then just that's the technical process behind it. But besides that, I just like to capture like snippets of stories or motion, if you will.
Yeah.
Motion, emotion, those kinds of things on a page.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned overactive imagination, which is something that I think describes many sevens aptly. And sevens can often be described as being like one of the most creative or most curious, at the very least, of all the types. And you guys seem to see life like as an adventure. Like there's an adventure, there's a story everywhere. But a lot of people don't naturally think that way. And so my question to you is how do you see the world? Like basically how are you able to see the world that way? Like for those of us who don't naturally think like that.
The best way I can describe it is actually stealing something from my pastor. Like a good like a good fellow Christian worker, I steal stuff from other pastors, right?
Yeah.
So my pastor growing up used to say, like, looking for something from God throughout the day is like expecting that he has $100 hidden somewhere. You're gonna look extra hard for it, right? You're gonna go to school, you're gonna open your locker and be like, is it tucked in the corners? You're gonna like search through your books, and it's just like,
that's
you
good.
know there's something wonderful hidden in the world, and it's like you gotta find it. You
Yeah.
gotta search for it, you gotta capture it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the best way I can explain that feeling and create the creative process of or the creative eye that we sevens have, is just saying like, okay, there's something hidden that I have yet to find. There is an adventure, there's a substance, there's a beauty out there that I want to see and well, expose or catch or just have fun with.
I love that analogy. I might have to steal that from you as well. That's that's really good. Like God is hidden like $100 somewhere, and it's your job to find it. And I think that's just do you operate under this assumption that there's something good, that there are good things in the world, that there's something very good, something really cool, and it's just your job to find it? Whereas normally a lot of people will operate on the opposite assumption, that there's something bad out there and it's coming to get me, or it's coming to hurt me, and I need to be prepared to avoid it or what have you. But when you operate on the other end, we're like, no, there's something cool to be discovered.
Yeah,
Figure
and
it
it's
out.
even negative. It's even if there's like, oh, there's something coming to get me. How can I make this positive? How can I make this fun?
It's
Like,
gonna be so much fun to overcome. Like this,
yes.
this demon that's chasing us, like it's gonna be so crazy.
How can I prank it? Like, how can I mess it? You don't even know. Like, you know, the whole election period, like getting those texts from people telling me like, you gotta vote this way or that way. We gotta save these things. Do you know what I texted back to those people? I don't know. I would mess with them so hard. It's so much fun.
Wow.
But it's just like, how can I make this fun?
Yes.
How can I make this more enjoyable? It's even in the negative stuff. How can I make this, and how can I view this from a different angle where something good could come out of this? And I like to not even imagine. I like to try to search for how could God even redeem these things?
Yeah.
Like, what can he make out of this? What amazing piece of art can he turn this into? And so,
that is a gift that I think sevens bring to the world, being able to find the good in anything, even the negative. Like it's not just the surface level silver lining, or just like trying to avoid dealing with hard things. It's more like, no, this is hard, but there is a way to look at it from a positive perspective, and that's really good. I think that analogy of looking for the $100 bill God has hidden leads us into our next question. That sevens are often described as searching for something. Like you guys are looking for something, and that's why you'll often try everything, where you try this instrument or this sport or this food or whatever, travel different places, because there's something that you're searching for, and it seems like experiences kind of like tickle that or what have you. So do you feel that you're searching, quote unquote, for something when you create your art? And if so, what does that feel like?
it is like I'm searching for something. And I think a lot of it is just, there've been artists or writers even that have said these things before. It's just, I was always looking for a story, a specific kind of story, but then I realized I had to make it myself. I had to write it myself. And I think that captures that seven spirit inside me. That's what I was looking. Whenever I read a book as a kid, I was like, one of my least favorite book series, well, not series, like genres, are dystopian books. I am so tired of dystopian books, because you read it and you're just like, how can this depressing hero overcome anything? They're just a ball of sadness and you're just like, it just shows them going through these terrible experiences and never having like any hint of happy moment. And it's just misery porn. It really is. And you're just like, it's misery porn. And I don't know why teenagers eat that crap up, but they do. And as a kid, I was reading this misery porn. I'm just like, I can't get along with, like, how in the world am I supposed to put myself in this hero? She's not a hero. It's just bothered the crap out of me. I'm like, there's no happiness in these stories. And it goes the same with art. I was like, in art class, we'd study all these different pieces. And I just remembered at one point, it was a bit of my calling for my art, at least. I just was looking at art history pieces, and I admire some of the stuff people make. It's really cool stuff. Even like even the really dark stuff people make, it's just really cool what people can make.
But
all the stuff throughout, it just looked so gruesome. And I'm just like, why are you so sad? Like all the artists are like these emotional, and they're just like emoting through their art pieces and understand the angst. And I'm just like, why isn't anyone happy?
You're right. Yes, that is so true.
It bothered me. And even as a kid, I was like, I need to make something that captures the joy of being, the joys of living.
Wow.
And when I went to where was I? It was recently. It was in Winter Palace. I can't remember exactly what it's in St. Petersburg, but
Huh.
it's a huge museum,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of different famous pieces in there from all
Mhm.
over the world. Um, and I was in the section, I think, with Rembrandt. I'm thinking it's Rembrandt. I can find it. I don't know, but anyways, freaking Rembrandt. It's all like these crazy scenes, life colorful, and it's just like some of it's just like gruesome labor, and I'm like, here we go again. And I walk around the corner, and there's like this farm field, this guy on a horse with a hunting party or something, and there's in like the front of the picture, like the foremost thing is a dog taking a literal crap, and I'm like, Rembrandt, my boy, painted
It's got a little
a
turd
dog,
just coming
yeah,
out.
just a little turd, and I'm like, okay, I applaud this. Like having a sense of humor to like this like
Yeah.
priceless piece of art, capturing like just
That's,
this random funny thing, and it was of course, out of all the different beautiful art pieces, I take a picture of that one,
yeah, of course.
zoom in on the dog because it's so memorable to me. Just like, let's get a close-up of this. Just like, what a beautiful art piece. It's so amazing. There's so much to look at, and then so much to look, wow.
Wow.
But just finding those little, like I said, finding the hidden $100 bills in even the craziest, darkest places. But
in
like I said,
dog poop.
yeah, it just finding those little joys. And I think even when I was looking at art history, just being able to, I was always searching for those kinds of styles.
Mhm.
And I got drawn more and more towards like, I can't remember the name of the artist. My teacher as a kid pointed him out to me, but he's a famous illustrator from like the 1800s. He made some really cool, like
Mhm.
mythical pieces,
Mhm.
and is, I don't know, it's somewhat realistic, but at the same time very dreamlike.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really gravitated towards that, and that just illustration in general. And so that style of art, just capturing the potential, the dreams of human beings, the the great visions and
Mhm.
ideas people have and
Yeah.
stories that they have. I gravitated towards that hardcore,
That,
and
yeah.
ended up inspiring a lot of what I make too. So
That is fascinating. Yeah. So it sounds like you're just at the end of the day, you're just searching for joy, like just and and you bring that joy to everyone you meet and through everything that you make. And that I definitely resonate with that. Like I've seen a lot of films and read a lot of books where it is heavy on the misery and the darkness. And I don't really have like a huge appetite for that either. So I resonate where reading it and like, dang it, like is anything good gonna happen? Like is nothing like it's always woe is me. Like I did not like I don't like reading Lamentations like in the Bible. Like I like seeing the adventures, David and Goliath
yep.
and Jesus moonwalking on water, like seeing
Yeah.
like the adventures. And I think that's really inspiring the way you described it. Like you saw this misery in art and you wanted to bring joy into that field. And that's really inspiring and commendable. And that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's hard because at the same time I have to understand that, those exist for very real reasons. Like the
Yeah.
need to emote and let that go is very real in this world. So I'm not putting down that kind of art style at all. It's more just like there's so much of it. It's
It's like,
overwhelming.
can we
I
have a
need to
balance?
make I
Have a
there's
balance?
yeah, I need to bring and make some
Yeah, yeah. It,
wondrous
it
things.
kind of reminds, like when you describe that, it kind of reminds me, like it makes me think of the contrast between Marvel and DC movies, where I
Oh,
am, like it or not, a DC. I would think of myself as a DC fan, like I like Superman and Batman, but I have felt that same thing with DC movies, where ever since The Dark Knight, everything has been so dark and the muted colors and meanwhile Marvel is like all of these bright colors and there's levity and there's banter and there's humor. And so I watch DC movies like, guys, come on, like not everything has to be so gritty.
go. That's why I'm like, I get a tear between that too. I'm like, I love DC, but
Yeah.
I like their comics.
Yeah, exactly.
The animated series.
The animated series, yeah, like
Series,
Young
brilliant, beautiful.
Justice, Teen
Totally fine.
Titans.
Young Justice, yes, okay.
Yeah. You're like, come
Yeah.
on, guys, like not everything has to be so dark and full of angst.
Mm-hmm.
We
Upsetting.
have some levity.
Oh. Yeah, can we have some like back and forth witty banter?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
come on. So
Yeah, don't even get me started. Anyway, so
Yeah.
in this search, so you have this search for joy when you're creating art, trying to find this artistic $100 bill basically that God has left for you somewhere. But I imagine that as exciting as it sounds, as fun as it is, like it probably isn't always fun, or maybe like, so what are some obstacles that come against your creativity?
Obstacles, well, the main one would be lack of inspiration or need for perfection. So I know sevens, when they disintegrate, they kind of turn into perfectionists, and that does apply to the art world too. You're just like, you could be forever working on something. You could just, if you feel stressed, I'm just like, sometimes I don't even want to touch it, because it's just like, I'm afraid of what might come out of me if I do, you know? So one of the things, I can give you another story growing up in art class. We had our first, was it acrylic painting still life, and it was our critique day, and we put up all the different still lifes from all the different angles, and my teacher was talking about how emotions come through art very clearly, and I was like, yeah, it does. And she singled mine out, and I was like, yeah, and so she singled it even more, and so she's like, look at how long and sharp the shadows are depicted in this. There's just so much emotion, and just look at the shape and how it's like jagged and just filled with roughness. What comes to mind when you look at this? And one kid is like, it looks like the artist is lonely. I just like a tear came out. I went into the bathroom and just like cried. I was like, I just wept, and I was like, because I was lonely, but it was coming out in my art, and it just was like, at a point where I was like, that is not what I want to bring into this world, something that depicts that. But at the same time, it's like, needing to understand that engaging with those emotions are necessary, even on paper. And sometimes avoiding something I love when I am not feeling up for it is not the right way to go about it, but to engage with it is. And so even if it's not on task with who I feel like I am and what I want to do as a creative, it's one of those, it's necessary. And that comes out, I think, more in my poetry. My porridge tree. Let's just see how far we can. It comes out in my poetry. Sometimes these feelings, to the harder to wrestle with feelings, because I feel like I need to put words to it rather than picture. So, yeah. But I think that's a big stumbling block in my creative process, is when I'm feeling tumultuous or just emotionally negative, and I'm just like, it stumbles me. It keeps me from creating better things. Or boredom without inspiration is the most torturous feeling. It's like almost even with having like despairing moments, like my dog died and I don't feel like drawing something beautiful. It's like almost as bad as being bored without having it. That's the level I feel boredom is to me without inspiration. It's just like, it's a trap, it's a cage, and I can't get out of it because nothing is coming to mind to make, and I need to like, that's when I search out like inspiring things. I'll read something, I'll watch something, I'll binge on something, and I'm just I need to make something, and I can't find what I need to make.
It's that I cannot scratch.
Yes. So that's, I think, my biggest stumbling block when it comes to creating things. Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah,
Mhm.
I can relate to that as well. Like I think it's really cool that you have so many different arts that you can resort to depending on what you're feeling. Like you said, you feel these negative emotions that are difficult to put into images, but you can put them into words. And,
Mm.
and so like I relate to the poetry part. Like sometimes like if I'm feeling something negative, it's hard for me to write a story about it, but I might be able to write a poem and just vomit my
Yes.
emotions into some bars
Yes.
as opposed to into some scenes. And yeah, but even in that process, it is a lot easier to be like, let's just not deal with that. Can we just like wait it out and maybe it'll just evaporate?
Dissipate.
Dissipate, yeah, on its own. And meanwhile, it's just like sitting in the corner of your soul, like I'm just
Like festering.
festering, like a golem.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
just
festering, and I'm like, I know what'll help, eating a cookie, and it just immediately
right.
like steals that
It's
cookie
just,
from me, and
oh,
just like it feeds the emotion, and you're just like, can you
now I'm
go
even
away?
sadder. Like you took my
It's just like it's getting sadder because the dang golem's getting fatter, sitting in my soul.
yeah, it's so aggravating.
Oh.
But then what's weird is like that sometimes that art that gets created out of that place is oftentimes even richer and more authentic
Mm, mm,
than the others.
yeah.
It would just be a lot more convenient if it didn't have to be so painful, you know.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I ended up having to realize through art is capturing beauty even in the pain.
Yeah,
In stories, capturing beauty through the suffering,
yeah.
capturing something not just joyous, but I think the word would be beauty. And just trying to find again that gold nugget, that $100 sitting somewhere
Yeah,
in the void of pain and misery and
yeah,
suffering, and rather than focusing on the misery, focusing in on that beautiful aspect
yeah,
somewhere in there.
yeah,
It's the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing.
yeah.
So yeah.
That's good. So on a positive note, then, like if negative emotions and boredom are the obstacles to your creativity, what revives your creativity when it dies?
mm, Time alone, I think. It's a weird place to go to, especially when I'm not in a good place. If I'm seeking isolation, that's not good for me. I know I'm in a bad place if I'm seeking to be isolated.
Everyone, leave me
But
alone.
it's like, leave me alone. No, but I'm saying like sometimes it's just good. I need to take like a long walk,
Yeah,
and rather what or not rather, either in silence or in just with some music on.
mm,
And sometimes that will just either being in motion,
yeah,
doing something physically helps,
yeah.
and getting um, that physical just roadblock moved.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know how to describe it other than it's one, engaging with the negative emotion. If I need to deal with it, I need to deal with it and wrestle through it,
Yeah,
and then that'll kind of bring me back onto track. Or just instead of trying to pump myself full of sugar, or pump myself full of whatever goodness, that I say sugar, but I mean not just the food sugar,
yeah,
but like media sugar
yeah,
or
yeah. Some kind of
people
substance.
sugar, just
Yeah,
that addictive substance, if you will, but just seeking out a time to engage with myself and
mm,
being still, even if it is a moment in motion, like walking,
yeah.
just being still
Yeah.
is sometimes very good for that, because it's just like, okay, just you need to get off
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
that's on your mind and running and going, and
yeah.
you need to be still. And so
Interesting.
yeah.
That makes sense because sevens are often like very, very active, like moving like at light speed from one place to the next, and so it makes sense that in order for you to recharge, all right, we gotta like get still, slow it
Mhm.
down. That's really good. Well, this has been really, really insightful, really, really inspiring. I have one last question for you. If you could say one thing to the sevens that are watching this to encourage them, what would that be?
Something to inspire my fellow sevens. First thing that comes to mind is don't stop. I know I just said sometimes I need to stop to recharge, but like just don't stop being what you're made to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes out of like sometimes you feel like you gotta fit into a certain cast or stereotype or thing in society that says this is how you need to look and act and be to be an adult or to be whatever to be a good artist is just to don't stop. Another thing would be, I mean, we don't need to be told to try new things. At least I think at a technical level, don't be afraid to learn the rules, to learn the rules and learn to have fun within the rules. And what I'm saying by that is just learn the rules of traditional art.
Yeah.
Learn the rules because that's going to grow you. We don't like to be restricted. We don't like to be tied down. I don't like to be restricted. I don't like to be tied down, but learning the rules has helped me grow into a better artist. Learning how humans are shaped has helped me draw humans better.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just feel like I want to, what is the word? Rebel against that whole system, that bit in the mouth that says like, nope, we got to go this way. And sometimes we need to learn how to draw inside the lines, so that way when the lines are removed, we can still draw. Well, not still draw better. Be better. And I think just that would be the last thing I'd give to my fellow sevens.
So don't stop and learn the rules.
Don't be afraid of the rules.
Don't be afraid of the rules. There we go. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid of the rules.
Yeah.
Let them.
Structure can breed creativity.
Yeah, it's just like pressure. That what feels like control or lack of freedom is oftentimes where we find freedom. It's like learning a new skill. You wanna pick up a chisel and use it like a pen on a piece of marble. That's not gonna work. You gotta learn the technical skills before you can make the same thing out of marble that you wanted to make on paper.
Yeah, that's very good.
It's so I know those two different things kind of are almost opposing. Like, don't stop being you, pursue your own style. Don't stop, like, allow yourself to be yourself in the world, but at the same time, allow to be shaped.
Yeah, that is shaped. They do sound contradictory, but they are both equally necessary. And I think, that's that message is something that we sevens, creatives, and everyone in general need to be able to live out. Because like the temptation is like, well, especially being Americans, like it's in our DNA. It's like, I don't want to be told, don't tell me what to do.
Especially on an art level, especially on our level.
Like, you put the creative in the midst of that.
Art. It's
like,
just
no.
like...
and so now, but there's freedom in like, no, don't be afraid of those rules. There's freedom in that structure, in mastering the basics first, and then learning.
Then go off and create what you want to create. So
that's really good. Well, this has been really good. Great stuff. I'm inspired.
Oh, I'm glad. So, I mean, I hope I brought a good laugh to a few people, but I don't know.
I'm sure you did. Well, thank you so much, Jess.
Thank you, Mon Capitan. I'm so glad to represent here.